You're covering everyone tonight. You make more money, Dad announced as the waiter set the check in the middle of the table. My sister's husband leaned toward her and said, finally useful for something. I paid the $1,847 bill for 14 people without a word. Then I stood up and told them I was selling the apartment they'd been living in rent-free for 4 years. Every Sunday, my family does dinner together. It used to be at my parents' old place before they downsized. Now it rotates between restaurants nobody wants to pay for. This particular Sunday, my dad picked a steak place downtown. Leather menus, dim lights, $60 plates. I didn't choose it. I didn't approve the guest list. I just showed up because my mom asked me to come. There were 14 of us. My parents, my sister Renee and her husband Troy and their 3 kids, my brother Alex and his wife and their 2 kids, and me, the only one without a spouse. Also the only one who'd done well enough to become everyone's backup plan. I'd been carrying my family financially since I was 25. It started small. Dad needed help with a car repair. I covered it. Mom's furnace broke in January. I paid for a new one. Renee came up short on rent 1 month. I sent her the difference. I didn't keep track because I thought that's what family did. Then it got bigger. When my parents sold their house and moved into a smaller place 3 years ago, they said the new apartment wasn't ready yet and asked if they could stay with me for a few weeks. I owned a 2-bedroom apartment I'd bought outright after 8 years of saving. I said sure. A few weeks turned into a few months. A few months turned into 4 years. They never left. Then Renee and Troy showed up. Troy lost his job and they couldn't cover rent. They moved into my 2nd bedroom with their kids while they got back on their feet. Troy found a new job 5 months later. They still didn't leave. My apartment turned into a family shelter and nobody ever asked me if I was okay with it. I was sleeping on an air mattress in my own living room for 3 months. My own place, and I couldn't even get to the bathroom without stepping over someone's shoes. Eventually, I rented a studio across town just so I could sleep in an actual bed. I was paying 2 rents. One for a place I owned that my family lived in for free, and one for a tiny studio so I could have a door that closed. Nobody offered to chip in. Nobody said thank you. Nobody brought it up. Renee redecorated my living room without asking. Troy left his work boots by the front door every night and never once took out the trash. My parents rearranged the furniture I'd picked out and hung their own photos on the walls. My apartment didn't feel like mine anymore. It hadn't for a long time. But I kept paying because every time I thought about saying something, I'd hear my mom's voice in my head saying family takes care of family. Except it only went one direction. Back to the dinner. The waiter set the bill down and my dad didn't even glance at it. He looked at me and said, "You're covering everyone tonight. You make more money." Like it was obvious. Like it was my purpose. Troy leaned toward Renee but didn't bother whispering. Finally useful for something. Renee smiled. Not a nervous smile. A comfortable one. Like she agreed. My brother Alex stared at his plate. My mom sipped her water. Nobody pushed back. Not one person at that table of 14 reached for their wallet or said maybe we should split it. I sat there for about 10 seconds. Then I pulled out my card and handed it to the waiter without looking at the total. I didn't argue. I didn't make a scene. I signed the receipt and put my card back. Then I stood up. Everyone looked at me. This was a great dinner. Also, I'm selling the apartment. I'll need everyone out by the end of next month. Dead silence. My dad's fork was frozen in his hand. Renee's face went blank. Troy straightened up in his chair like someone had poked him in the spine. My mom said, "What are you talking about?" I spoke to a realtor last week. The apartment goes on the market in 30 days. You'll need to find your own place. Renee was the first to recover. You can't just sell it. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. Troy cut in. You're putting your own parents on the street? I'm selling my property that I paid for and own. What you do next is up to you. Dad put his fork down. Son, let's not do this here. I looked at him. You told 14 people I was paying for dinner because I make more money. Your son-in-law just called me useful for the first time. You've lived in my apartment for 4 years without paying a single bill. If we're doing things in public, let's do all of it. Nobody had a response. I dropped my napkin on the table, grabbed my coat, and walked out into the cold. For the first time in 4 years, I felt like I could take a full breath. My mom called the next morning crying. I let it ring. She called again an hour later. I let that one ring too. Dad texted, "We need to talk like adults." I sent back one line. "You have 30 days. The listing went up last week."